Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our value Unifracks distributor and customer. I'm Domingo Gia, European Fire Protection Sales Manager at Unifracks, and I want to thank you for joining us today and welcome to our virtual event to learn about our weight and space saving solution for a marine and offshore fire division. Today, webcast session is being recorded and will be available later for on-demand viewing following this broadcast today. During the webinar today, all participants are in listen-only mode, but we will conduct a live Q&A following the presentation. So at any time during the presentation, you can type in your questions and using the webinar Q&A tool for our panel. In a moment, I'll pass you to our speakers. We'll be introducing the FyreWrap system and covering the features and benefits of this with you. But before that, for the one of you which been in contact with Unifracks for the first time, I would like to share some information about Unifracks. Unifracks is a global leader in high-performance specialty fibers and materials used in high-temperature application for the industry, automotive, and fire protection. We are more than 4,000 employees at Unifracks. Worldwide, we have 37 manufacturing facilities in 12 locations. We have over 75-year history of supplying high-temperature insulation products with a global service and support. Our purpose, missions, and values are based on our commitment to produce high-quality products and to help customers to save energy, reduce pollution, and improve fire safety. This is highlighted by our company slogan, greener, cleaner, and safer. Unifracks supply products to a broad range of industry. Our products are used in demanding industrial environments to control heat and save energy. For example, ferrous and non-ferrous metal production, glass and ceramic manufacture, power generation facilities, and petrochemical refineries. Our products also found in vehicle emission control systems to help reduce pollution and also in start and stop batteries to reduce fuel consumption. We also have systems that reduce the risk of fire in buildings, in various models of transport, and in application using lithium battery technology. Our high-performance specialty materials are available in a variety of product forms. Our range includes high-temperature insulation products such as flexible blankets and papers, rigid boards, customized shapes, and specialty coating or mixes, plus many more that you can see on this slide. And now moving on to our first speaker, Phil Armstrong. Phil is joining us from the UK, and he's our FyreWrap product manager with over 20 years of experience at Unifracks. Phil have worked in a number of departments, and for the last 7 years in the fire protection team. So thank you, Phil, for joining us today. Let's get started. So over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Domingo. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. For the next 10 minutes, I'll be summarising our FyreWrap fire-rated divisions for bulkhead and deck systems in the marine and offshore sector. Unifracks manufactures a wide range of high-temperature insulating materials, especially suited for use in passive fire protection applications. These products carry our FyreWrap brand. The product of choice for marine and offshore fire divisions are blankets manufactured from a high-temperature alkaline earth silicate or AES wool that incorporate fibres with a low biopersistence or LBP. This means they meet the durability criteria to be exonerated from health and safety classification of fibres. They are based on calcium magnesium silica chemistry, giving excellent thermal and physical stability, melting above 1300 degrees centigrade. The blankets are completely inorganic and have no resin binders, giving them the highest rating of non-combustibility. High flexibility allows for fast and efficient installation, and the high insulation performance allows for lightweight and thin solutions, and we will touch on these points in more detail shortly. When the insulation is used in areas exposed to weather or potential physical damage, protective coverings are recommended, and Unifracks can supply with a choice of surface coverings bonded to our blankets. Water repellent versions are also available, especially suited for fire protection in offshore applications and environments with high humidity. For more than 30 years, FyreWrap materials have provided lightweight insulation for bulkhead and deck structures that can potentially be exposed to fires in cruise ships, luxury yachts, high-speed ferries, and military defence vessels, for example. A-class ratings range from 15 minutes up to 60 minutes on steel plate, A-class and high-speed craft ratings of 30 minutes and 60 minutes on aluminium plate, and also we have A60 and B15 equivalent ratings on glass-reinforced plastic composite panels. Systems are type approved and certified under the European Marine Equipment Directive and are mutually recognised by the United States Coast Guard where applicable. For structures potentially exposed to hydrocarbon fires such as oil platform structures, FPSO units and offshore accommodation modules, then we have a range of H-class systems rated up to 120 minutes on steel structures. These systems are fully tested to the SOLAS IMO codes, but utilising the hydrocarbon time temperature fire curve. All H-class systems are Lloyd's Register approved for offshore installations, as MED approval does not apply in offshore structures. As a side note, it's worth mentioning here that Unifracks also supplies products for oil and gas process piping, and we have a J60 fire rated system for structural steel and pipe protection. So how are our fire ratings achieved? By simply attaching the flexible insulation to steel, aluminium or glass reinforced plastic composite structures using a pin and washer system. The flexibility of the blanket allows easy installation on flat or profile plate designs. The different ratings, such as 15 minutes or 60 minutes, for example, are achieved by using different thicknesses or density of insulation, or in some cases using more than one layer. By insulating the division, this prevents fire spreading from one compartment to the next for the specified amount of time. Moving on to some of the features of the systems and the way these will benefit you, Unifracks have been making significant developments on our blanket products, focusing on reduction in thermal conductivity or an enhancement of the insulating properties, if you like. Higher performing blankets can be used to reduce the mass or thickness of insulation or both. Our most recent systems have incorporated lighter weight blankets to achieve the same ratings as the more traditional systems. Significant weight savings of up to 50% can be made. For the marine industry, this has huge advantages. The weight directly influences the displacement of a vessel, so excess weight increases drag forces, reduces the speed performance, and considerably increases the general fuel consumption. Extra weight above the waterline can significantly compromise the stability and maneuverability of the vessel. So minimizing weight of the structural part gives improved vessel efficiency and reduces fuel consumption, leading to lower emissions. Weight savings will also lead to faster and more maneuverable vessels in the case of fast craft or military ships, for example, or even allow for additional cargo and passengers in the case of commercial vessels. Also, for recent fire testing, we've utilised our improved blankets to reduce lining thickness compared to some of our older and some of our competitors' systems. This frees up valuable space for design and comfort, particularly where space is a premium, such as offshore accommodation modules. As I touched on a little earlier, our systems are very easy to apply. The FyreWrap blankets are fully flexible, allowing for fast installation, either by profile wrapping on corrugated plate or over stiffeners as shown on the left, or by vertical installation between and then over the stiffeners as in the image on the right. Foil covering and tape on the outer surface is optional, and the system installed should be in accordance with the design of the test panel detailed in the appropriate system drawing that we can provide for each individual system. FyreWrap blankets are held in place by 3mm diameter pins welded to the plate, over which the blanket is impaled and retained by spring washers. In most cases, the blanket strips are butt jointed together, which are then compressed slightly to give a neat joint. Unifracks have been improving our systems by testing with wider pin spacings. This means fewer pins and washers and reduced preparation work for installers. Improvements on the blanket's resiliency has enabled this less conservative pin spacing during the system design. New systems are being tested with pins spaced at 350mm centres. In our new A60 steel deck, for example, pins have been reduced from 23 pins per square metre to 12 pins per square metre, which is a huge 47% reduction. The need for extra pins at joints has been eliminated, so joints can fall anywhere between grid pattern pins, removing the need for precise pre-pinning. This means less time grinding and welding and giving a fast, easy install. Our range of approvals is extensive, with over 50 tested systems, all with type approval certificates, and more than 35 of which are MED approved systems with dedicated MED certification. The core marine systems can be seen here with a range of A-class deck and bulkhead systems on both steel and aluminium. Each application listed may have more than one applicable system or certificate. So for example, we have systems for the same application, but with an alternative insulation construction to suit design. We also have systems with alternative thicknesses of plate. So for example, in the case of aluminium, we have the standard 6mm plate systems, but also the thinner 4mm plate systems, as architects look for weight savings in the structure. We also have a range of systems for fast craft or high-speed ferries that utilise a very thin plate, such as 2mm aluminium, or for lightweight composite vessels made from fibre reinforced or glass reinforced plastic, we have A60 and B15 equivalent approvals. And for offshore oil and gas applications where there are potential hydrocarbon fire risks, we have a H-class steel system for deck and bulkheads. The high temperature stability of the fibre chemistry used in FyreWrap allows us to achieve ratings of up to 120 minutes in these extreme fire scenarios where other materials may fall short. In addition to the fire resisting properties of the material, our blanket also offers excellent thermal and acoustic properties, so it's a 3-in-1 solution. At ambient temperatures, we have measured the thermal conductivity of the material, and from that we can calculate the U and R values of the installed systems. Thermal insulation performance of a material or structure is often expressed as U value. The enhanced U value from recent blanket developments offers excellent thermal efficiency, slowing heat transfer between indoor and outdoors or between compartments. This provides comfort for the occupants and ultimately saves energy and money. For the acoustic properties, we not only know the sound absorption properties of our material, but we have also tested the sound reduction performance of the complete systems. For acoustic engineering purposes, the ability of a deck or bulkhead to prevent sound transmission is important in reducing noise passing through to adjacent rooms. Sound reduction is typically expressed as a single figure in decibels. All of our systems offer a sound reduction of more than 40 decibels. 40 decibels is often seen as the minimum requirement for divisions in the marine and offshore sector. Our H-rated deck and bulkhead systems have also been tested for blast resistance. This is to determine their effectiveness for use in areas where there is a risk of explosion. The aim of the testing was to demonstrate that the integrity of the FyreWrap systems remains intact and will be able to provide the same level of fire protection following an explosion. 2 blasts were carried out on a selection of H-rated systems, with the insulation and stiffened side exposed to the blast. And all this testing was witnessed by Lloyd's Register. Tests were conducted on systems with no covering on the insulation and also systems with a protective stainless steel wire mesh covering. 2 levels of blast pressure were tested, 0.65 bar on both covered and uncovered systems, and 1.25 bar on the covered systems only. After the blast exposure, the test specimens were inspected for damage that would be deemed to affect their fire integrity and performance. Subsequent examination showed the insulation withstood the blast and did not display any significant delamination from the substrate. So based on the test conducted, it was determined that FyreWrap blanket systems without coverings will remain in place and will not be significantly compressed by a 0.65 bar pressure. And furthermore, the systems with the stainless steel mesh covering will remain in place and will not be significantly compressed by a 1.25 bar pressure. Therefore, these systems are able to maintain their fire protection performance post-blast. This blast resistance performance is included in our type approval certificates. Our systems are tested in accordance with the IMO resolution MSC 30788, also known as the 2010 Fire Test Procedure Code, or FTP code. We have multiple international certifications and approvals from recognized notified bodies or class societies, and products are wheel marked where applicable. Our blankets, both with and without coverings, are non-combustible to the IMO FTP code Part 1. We have approved manufacturing sites in 5 locations globally, with product availability from Unifracks locations and local distribution partners. So this concludes my section. I would like to thank you for your time, and with that, pass you straight over to our second speaker today, Sarah Brewer, who is going to summarise our new N-class or Navy class systems. Sarah?
Thank you, Phil, and hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Brewer. I'm a market manager in the fire protection area for Unifracks. I'm going to talk to you today about the military marine segment. This segment presents unique hazards for naval vessels and their personnel, and safety from fire and explosions is critical. The U.S. Navy is leading the way with performance specifications for fire-rated divisions using passive fire insulation materials. Other nations are following suit, creating a growing trend and demand for N-class or Navy-class fire insulation systems. The marine segment also requires fire insulation materials to have multiple performance capabilities. In this case, thermal insulation, fire resistance, and a shock impact resistance. It is critical that naval vessels be capable of withstanding a shock load that may be endured during service, and the fire-rated divisions maintain their designed level of protection, even after an explosion or blast event. AES wool blankets are the U.S. Navy's preferred material for N-class systems. Fires on military vessels are likely to involve a hydrocarbon fuel, and AES blankets are capable of withstanding extended exposure to temperatures that match or exceed fuel fire levels without melting or shrinking. FyreWrap LT is an AES blanket with enhanced insulation properties, which enabled Unifracks to develop some N-class systems that have lower weight than traditional AES blankets. This weight savings can yield a faster vessel speed, as Phil mentioned earlier, or be allocated to offset the weight of new equipment or weapons that are added to the ship to meet new mission objectives. So the FyreWrap offers reliable and cost-effective solutions the U.S. Navy can depend on. The U.S. Navy insulation specification for fire, thermal, and acoustical materials is MIL PRF 32161. There's an extensive list of performance criteria required for compliance. I think you can see the list here. In addition to material property tests, the insulation utilized for N-class divisions must meet fire, shock, and then post-shock fire tests to be used on all new U.S. Navy program vessels. N30 ratings are currently the industry standard, equating to fire protection for a 30-minute time period. However, N0 and N60 ratings are also included as options. MIL Standard 3020 covers the fire resistance test requirements in a separate standard. Like the IMO FTP code, this requirement has you testing full-scale deck and bulkhead assemblies representing the steel and aluminum vessel structure. The test panels are exposed to a rapid rise, high-temperature hydrocarbon fuel for 30 minutes. And these photos here show an aluminum foil and scrim foil backed faced versions of the FyreWrap LT that are applied to the test assembly and attached with insulation pins and washers. The fire insulation is designed to limit fire and heat transfer through the panel, assuring the deck or bulkhead can maintain its structural load and function as a fire division when subjected to a fire event. The N-class fire resistance test also includes a hose stream test. This is done immediately after the 30-minute exposure, and the assembly is removed from the test furnace, and then the fire hose stream is applied. This test aims to evaluate the post-fire integrity of the protected assembly, so no openings or projection of water beyond the panel is permitted. And you can see this here in the video as the hose stream is applied up and down and across, back and forth across the panel, trying to understand whether or not any openings or weaknesses in the structure are detected. The shock component of the N30 testing is defined by MIL Standard 901, and a total of 7 shock blows are applied to the test panel on 3 different axes of orientation. The video here shows a red-colored hammer as it swings down and impacts the underside of the anvil test platform, and this transfers the force to the test panel mounted above. So in this case, no items or fixing devices can come adrift from the assembly. A maximum of 10% of the pins can become loose, and no tears or holes are allowed in the insulation, exposing the face of the material. This slow motion video of the same test assembly illustrates the significant movement of the fire insulation. So in this case, after being subjected again to those 7 blows, no significant damage occurred, and the FyreWrap LT remained firmly attached with seams intact. So once this shock testing is complete, the assemblies are packed up and shipped back to a U.S. Navy approved fire test facility for a post-shock fire test. And these are some pictures of the post-shock fire test assembly where a shocked test sample, like the one we just showed the video of, and identical non-shock samples are mounted side by side in a test lab furnace. And then they are subjected to the 30-minute hydrocarbon fire. And temperature data from both assemblies are compared, and that would be the cold side temperatures, how much heat transfers through the assembly, to confirm whether the fire insulation performance of the shock sample degraded to an unacceptable level. We are pleased to announce that Unifracks just received the official NAVC approval letter for aluminum deck and bulkhead systems. This extends our N30 coverage to solutions for steel and now the aluminum vessel construction. Numerous N30 systems have been developed and put into practice on U.S. Navy vessels. Here's one example called the LCS, or Littoral Combat Ship, and these photos are of the Independence class version of that vessel. It's an all aluminum designed vessel. The interior photos you see on the right illustrate the extent to which FyreWrap LT blankets are utilized to protect steel components of the vessel and the exposed aluminum surfaces in the loading bay area. And for that LCS vessel program, the use of FyreWrap LT resulted in a 15% weight savings. This totaled 17 tons or 15 metric tons per ship. It's equivalent to 7 armored Humvees or even more Range Rovers. The engineering team at that naval ship builder stated, "Nowhere else on the ship can we save this much weight without having to modify the ship's structure." And that's really what a great endorsement of the value FyreWrap was able to deliver. In addition to the FyreWrap AES blankets, Unifracks offers other proven fire protection materials that can meet performance criteria for the marine and offshore industry. Here's just a few examples of some new products we offer, including lightweight boards with ultra-low density, which might be good for panel type systems, endothermic mats with chemically bound water that is released upon heating to significantly limit the heat transfer through the material, and fire-rated non-combustible coatings. These have achieved A1 classification ratings. So this concludes the presentation portion of our webinar. And I'd like to thank you as well for joining us. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Domingo, who will lead us through the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. As a reminder to all participants, you can type in your question for the panel in the Q&A tool located on the top right of your screen. So I will start now to reading some question. So the first one is probably for Sarah. It says, do you have any reference specifically for the N30 system?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Domingo. Yeah, we have two major programs where we're being used on U.S. Navy vessels. The one was mentioned in the presentation, which is the LCS Littoral Combat Ship. That's being built by Austal USA in Alabama. And the second one is the LPD, which is a landing platform dock vessel that's being built by Huntington Ingalls in Mississippi. Unifracks does also have a reference list of programs we've been used on, including naval programs, and certainly that reference list would be available upon request.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Let's go to the second question. So second question, probably for Phil. How are the systems certified and product control to ensure acceptance by approval authorities, European flag states?
Yeah, so in Europe, the Marine Equipment Directive, or the MED, sets out performance and testing standards to be met by marine equipment that's placed on board an EU ship. So all manufacturers producing equipment need to comply with the MED, and they require involvement of a notified body to assess the products. Upon a suitable assessment, products or systems can be certified for the EC type examination. So, for example, a Module B certificate, and the production control phase. In the case of Unifracks, we have a Module D audit process. Products certified by a notified body as meeting requirements of the MED will carry the wheel mark and be accepted by all European and most non-European flag states.
Okay, great. Thank you, Phil. Going to the next one, probably that's for myself. Are any shipping or offshore companies using FyreWrap for their fire protection requirements? So yeah, the answer is yes. So FyreWrap is available globally directly from Unifracks or from our distributor partners, and we have, I would say, a large number of reference in luxury yacht manufacturing, Navy reference, but also offshore accommodations. So yeah, the answer to this question is yes. So you can, if you may need a detailed reference list, you can get in contact with us. We are going to have the email contact at the end of the presentation, and we can provide you that. So going to the next question. Just a second. Okay. As these are fibrous insulation products, are there any health and safety restriction to the use of these products? So Phil, you may probably answer this one.
Yeah, sure. So as we mentioned, the FyreWrap products contain low biopersistent fibers, and these fibers have passed the Note Q exoneration test for low biopersistence or effectively durability in the body. These tests were conducted by accredited independent laboratories, and we can provide certificates for this. FyreWrap fibers are therefore not classified as hazardous, and they do not require a hazard label.
Okay, thank you, Phil. We have another question, probably again for you, Phil. You indicated for offshore process piping certification J60. Do you also have certification for pressure vessels?
So that really depends on the size of the pressure vessel. Our J60 certification covers pipes and structures up to a diameter of about 500 millimeters. So anything bigger than that, so if it's a large vessel, then no, we don't have certification. It's something that we have been looking into as a potential development for us, but we don't have that yet.
Okay, great, thank you. And another question from John. What is the typical lead time for the Emed endothermic product? So maybe Sarah, you are in the position to reply this.
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, the benefit of having an Emed or endothermic mat product is it has some water that is released upon heating. And certainly there is a time period associated with the benefit of that, aiding the insulation properties as well that the material has. We have used that material in systems that are extended to a 2-hour time period, but there are other applications where the time frame may be longer, and the benefit would help early in the system, and then the insulation properties of the material would continue on during that time period. So even though we've tested 2-hour systems, I believe it could be pertinent for fire protection systems that are even longer.
Okay, thank you very much. And next question, probably again for you, Sarah. What is the process to obtain the N30 certification?
Yeah, sure. I can speak to the U.S. Navy criteria. You know, in this case, the N30 certification programs have to be pre-approved. So it's a little different than getting a type approval for the IMO market segment. And by that, what it means is they actually have to be endorsed by the Navy program office and the shipbuilder. So essentially, they create a business case that says that the added benefit of testing these types of materials will provide them, you know, either a performance or cost benefit. And if approved, then you actually go through a test plan, which is managed between the insulation manufacturer and NAVSEA, which is Naval Sea Systems Command. And then you run that series of material performance tests, fire and shock tests. So once that testing is complete, NAVSEA then reviews the data package, and then if it meets all of the criteria, a letter of approval is issued. So that letter of approval is essentially the verification of the N30 system is certified for use. I would say that, you know, there are other naval authorities in other countries that probably have similar or perhaps slightly different requirements for running naval test programs. I would just advise the listeners here today to make contact with those local authorities and make sure you're following whatever protocols they would have in place for N-class systems.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. It was very clear, Sarah. We have another question from Stefan. I think this is also for Phil. Is Unifracks also certified for GRP bulkheads and decks for FRM, specifically asking about H60 protection for GPR structures?
Okay, yeah, so no, we don't have hydrocarbon fire testing on the GRP composites. It's all cellulosic fire testing. With regards to the FRD60, I think that is an alternative testing. We've gone with the A60 and B15 equivalent systems, and I can provide Stefan with some information by email on why we've selected that particular type of testing and standard. Okay,
thank you, Phil. And I think I may have another one for you, Phil. This is a question that we heard very much from the market. Is the pipe insulated? This is coming from Pekka. Is the pipe insulation material similar to deck or bulkhead insulation material? So may we consider that the bulkhead insulation fire class certificate is also valid to pipe insulation material?
So our testing and certificates are based on flat panel divisions, depending on where that's being used. So if it's marine, then typically no, the certificate is what was tested and is applicable to that. In the offshore industry, there is a lot more flexibility, if you like, on the certification side. So it would be up to the end user or the consultant involved to make a decision on whether that fire data from the flat structures can be transferred to the particular pipe.
Yeah, thank you, Phil, very clear. So we have many more questions, but in the interest of time, I think we will end here. So thank you very much for your question in this Q&A session. So I would like to close today's presentation. We invite you to visit our Unifracks website for more information. Also, we provided email addresses for the two speakers today, so please feel free to reach them directly with your question. And I'd like to conclude the event today by thank our speaker Phil and Sarah. Thank you for all our customers and distributors that have joined us today and taken out part of their time from the day to participate and listen. We appreciate that, and this brings us to the close of this event. So until next time, this is Domingo Gia signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.